Have you ever heard your cruise ship shouting random words and names over the loudspeaker while you're on your cruise ship vacation? Like, who is this Oscar guy? And why are they always saying his name? Maybe they're talking about Oscar the Grouch. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Jay Alexander and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Ship Life, where I try to inform, educate, and entertain you guys on the world that is ship life. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about 5 different cruise ship codes that cruise ships do not want you to know about. In this episode, we are going to go in depth. I'm going to tell you guys why we have these codes and how some of them are even for the crew not to really know what's going on as well. We're going to go into that and maybe talk about just a little bit more in today's episode. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we?
Let's go!
Alright, first and foremost, happy Friday guys. I hope you guys had and are having a very productive week. Just keep in mind that just because it is Friday and it's technically the weekend does not mean that you should stop being productive. I know a lot of you guys are definitely going to be turning up tonight, but just stay productive. Also on that note guys, just real quick before we get started into today's episode, I just have one really small announcement. If you guys haven't seen already, I have officially started my second YouTube channel. This one's a little bit more personal. It's called Jay Alexander's YouTube channel. I'm going to leave a link right up above and below if you guys want to follow it. It's going to be about basically just entrepreneurship, travel, vlog, just helping people do something more with their lives other than the norm. If you guys are interested in giving that a follow, please check out my video below. Now, let's get into what we're all here for. Alright, so similar to commercial air travel, with commercial vacation cruising, there is always some kind of safety risk involved should something go wrong. Now, the last thing these companies want to happen is a panic, all right? I think it goes without saying, the last thing you want is people freaking out on an airplane that's suspended thousands and thousands of feet in the air. Vice versa, you wouldn't want somebody freaking out on a giant sinking tin can that has thousands and thousands of feet of water below it, okay? They don't want a panic. So they created these codes to keep the general public or the guests from panicking. That's why we have them. Now let's break down the codes and see what exactly, which codes are there, which codes exist, and what they actually mean. Alright, so first up, I'm going to mention the code that I said at the very beginning of my video, which is Code Oscar. Now Code Oscar is actually very simple. Code Oscar is short for Man Overboard, alright? Now, if a man goes overboard, let's say if he falls, or let's say he jumps, or somebody pushes him over, and somebody happens to see it, especially a crew, for example, a crew member like myself, we have training that we go through once we start our contracts that tell us that if we see a man go overboard, we automatically have to start yelling code Oscar. Oscar, Oscar, Oscar. So we can alert higher authorities that a man has fallen overboard. That way his chances of survival can hopefully increase. Now, I know it's a strange word to say, but of course, obviously yelling something like Oscar to the general public or the guests, they may not see what's going on. They may think somebody's looking for somebody named Oscar. So this is why they throw this out there, because it will alert the crew that something is wrong, that a man has fallen overboard, while at the same time, the guests are completely oblivious to what has happened. Otherwise, you can cause a panic, and that's something that we don't want. Alright, so the next code I have for you guys is code Bravo, which in crew terms means a fire. Alright, I know it's scary to think about, but believe it or not, it does actually happen. When I was working on the cruise ship as a crew member, we had that actually happen twice. One of the engines exploded, and unfortunately we had 2 fatalities and 1 person that had to be airlifted away from the cruise ship, alright? So it's a very serious thing when you hear something like Bravo. Now, the thing is, I actually find a funny way to remember it, because as I said, when the crew members go on the cruise ship, we do have tests that we have to take. Now given, I know this video only has 5 codes that I'm mentioning, there are a lot of codes and things that we need to know so that we can keep you guys as the crew and as the guests safe. So we need to learn these things, alright? So I would remember Johnny Bravo, because Johnny Bravo, I don't know if you guys know that cartoon, but Johnny Bravo was a guy that saw himself as a really hot guy. So I was able to relate the word Bravo to Johnny Bravo. And don't get me wrong, I don't think a cartoon man is hot in any way, alright? But that's just what I use to relate to it. So Bravo means fire, for those of you guys that don't know. So if you don't know, now you know. Next up, for our third code, we have code Papa, which does not stand for dad or grandpa. Cold papa means pollution or debris in the ocean, all right? Let's say, for example, the ship has an oil leak, right? Or a crazy guest, which has happened before, a crazy guest decides to take a chair and throw it out into the ocean, right? A contaminant out into the ocean. They will then call cold papa so that whatever can be retrieved can be retrieved. If there's an oil leak or something like that, then obviously the Coast Guard or whoever else involved has to be alerted. So they just make sure the guests are aware so that they stay away from the contaminated area. Let's say if there is a leak, there might be a hole in the ship somewhere where it's leaking oil. That's the last thing you want because it could potentially cause a fire or anything like that, which is why we're alerted on the ship, even though oil may only be leaking out into the ocean, all right? Now, cold papa is probably something that, let's say, Carnival Cruise Lines won't be saying because they're notorious for just dumping stuff out into the ocean. I'm sorry, guys. I never worked for Carnival, so I had to throw that little that bit out there. They have a bad reputation for doing illegal dumping and dumping out raw sewage and all that other bad stuff into the ocean. Hopefully they clean up their act. But yeah, basically papa just stands for pollution and contaminants that are being tossed out into the ocean or that accidentally spill out to the ocean. All right, for number 4, we have the code kilo. And no, kilo does not mean a kilo of bad stuff, even though most cruise lines, believe it or not, are carrying it somewhere on the ship at some point in time. But anyway, we're not gonna get into that. So code kilo means that the crew needs to report to their emergency stations, all right? Now, to be honest with you guys, we do have that code on the cruise lines that I work for. However, you rarely hear it. Typically, when there's an emergency, usually the alarm will go off first, and then following that, the guests are given instructions on what they need to do. It just kind of seems counterproductive to go ahead of all of that process, alert the crew first of where they gotta go, and then sound the alarm, and then let the guests know what's going on. If there's a real emergency, it can be handled in a more efficient manner. So kilo just means all crew need to report to their emergency stations, and all crew do have emergency stations. So finally, last but certainly not least, we have code number 5, which is the most commonly used code in all cruise line existence, which is code Alpha. Now here's the funny thing about code Alpha. Just like with code Bravo, I also had my own little way of remembering it when it came to tests and whatnot. I'm sure you guys have heard of Power Rangers. You remember Alpha? Yeah, that's right, that Alpha. I would use that to help me think of what Alpha meant, right? So Alpha on a cruise ship always means, or just typically anyway, it means that there is a general emergency, right? Now, here's the thing, right? This general code is not only used to kind of throw off the guests, but also the crew, all right? Let's say, for example, there is a crew member down, a crew member injured, or let's say there's a heart attack, or there's something in a certain area that we aren't meant to know as crew members, or that the higher up crew does not want us to know, all right? They will use code Alpha as a general term to keep the other crew members at bay as far as, you know, they want to keep everybody in the dark as a whole as far as what's going on the ship at that particular point in time. Somebody could have passed away or anything like that, so they use code Alpha to kind of, you know, keep everything somewhat of a secret, even from the crew. So yeah, you know what I mean? It sucks, but at the same time, you know, there are a lot of guys that go investigating and try to figure out and dig up whatever rumors are going on whenever they hear code Alpha. It's kind of like a little game for some people because they want to know what it was about, because there's always that question all over the ship was, oh, what was that code Alpha that went down? All right, so just so you guys know, if you hear code Alpha, the crew, we don't even know. We're unaware a lot of the time. But anyway, guys, that is my 5 code, and I don't think there's anything else I can talk about with these codes. Oh, yeah, wait, no, I'm forgetting. Guys, so just for a rule of thumb, this isn't like an across-the-board set of codes, right? Every single cruise line all over the world, they all have their own set of codes. They all use certain ones. They all use different ones. So just be mindful of that, all right? There's always factors depending on what cruise line we're talking about, what department, all that other good stuff. So just remember that, as always, guys. Alright guys, about that time, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this video up. If you guys found this video informative at all, please make sure you smash that like button. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe so that you guys can be notified when I post my weekly videos. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Guys, don't forget that I also have videos coming out on Fridays and Sundays as well with my ship life stories. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can either hit me up on Instagram, which I leave the link right here. You can hit me up in my email, which I leave down below, or also hit me up in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you guys, all right? And if you guys have it in you, I would appreciate it if you guys check out my new YouTube channel. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be posting weekly videos on there as well. So I'm gonna get up out of here. I will see you guys Sunday. Until then, you guys take it easy.